Very dirty 2024 Audi Q5. And this thing is still, the old shape, Premium Plus. This is what, 45 TSFI. Yeah, they still have those stupid numbers, which they will be getting rid of. Thing has 7,300 miles. Been using it. Nice, black interior on this one. Didn't even get a chance to look under the hood. Yeah. Here we go. Come on. Nice. Nice leaves up there. Nice little intake. Actually, my Q3 has a better intake. It's more of a direct flow than this particular one. However, this does have the torsion. So, it's a real Quattro. Well, let me take that back. It's not real Quattro. It's still that nonsense 60/40. That's real Quattro right there. So, it's good old 50/50. But yeah, nice vehicle. Gas mileage has been pretty decent so far. I got to return it tomorrow. So I'm just kind of prepping it to get back my Q3. And yeah, I guess I'll have another video clip of me driving it back to the store. It already comes with, a lot of Q5s come with the racks. It's kind of weird. Tons of them do. This one's got Kumos. The other one I had those stupid, those Continentals? Those terrible tires. I'd probably rather go with this 235, 55, 19s. Yeah, something about the Continentals, they love to wear out. I always like bubbles too, so let's get this off there. Yeah, and there you go. That's the story. I think got really nice exhaust tips. Those things are hot, right? They're kind of boxed out in some sort of shape. What the heck is that about? It's really stupid. Just make them come out of there. I love driving different cars. I really do. Years ago, and we're going back quite a long time ago, when I was running the pre-owned Audi VW store, I used to switch off all the time. And we mostly sold, VWs, Audis, and that was to my liking. We had some Benzes, some Beamers, a couple Lexus, but I always gravitated, of course, to the Audis. Just a nice feeling, secure. But, it's just nice to switch. And one of the reasons why I worked there was to switch all the time. I did enjoy it. And for a good 6 years of my life, I didn't own a car. I just had a dealer plate, and I would throw the Easy Pass down there in the bottom. So I remember it, because what happens is, you switch into so many different cars, you have to, you can't put it up there. You just forget, So I always had a little system, like a little bag, everything in it that I needed, and would just switch off all the time. And it's just a nice feeling, So this is another loaner they gave me. So it has the black interior, which is nice. I think it's a lot nicer than the beige. Yeah, the beige was nice too. But this Q5, I like the darker interiors. That's just me. It's also nice to have a car that doesn't fight you at all, and, just is very simple to drive. I do appreciate that. I really do. So that's one of the big things when I have a car, especially, I'm older. I don't know, when I was younger, yeah, you wanted to be in super sport mode. And actually, I was never kind of like that. I remember I had this Volkswagen Jetta, and I put this major suspension. I can't even remember if New Speed made it or what. I'll tell you, the car looked so hot. We dropped it. And actually, the funny thing was, that's when I first started working at the dealership. And that was one of my last cars that I had owned. It was, I think, like an 02 VW Jetta. 2.0, nothing special. It was green with a tan gut. It was pretty nice, too. Very clean. 186,000 miles. I remember I bought it. I bought it from a VW store. I only paid like $2,500 at the time. And that was super cheap for back then's prices, too. So anyway, I basically Fast and Furious it or whatever, drop it. I remember driving it home, and they had put these stupid speed bumps in my garage where I lived in the building. And there was like it was a 2.4 garage. It was great. But what happens is I go over the hump, and it wasn't like this. It was a real thin one. And it was like, boom, it bottomed out. And it was just so hard to drive. It felt terrible. It felt like driving a cement truck. It really did. It just, you felt everything. I drove it back to the dealership. So it was 50 miles down and then 50 miles back to the dealership. 100 miles on the suspension. And that was it. I put it up for sale. I think he sold it for like $5,500 or $6,500 at the time. So it wasn't bad at all. I made money. I hear this thing make a noise for whatever reason. It's kind of annoying. Let's plug that in. And that was that. As for, like, I enjoyed always driving A6s, A8, especially A8. The A8 just floats very nicely. Always thought that a lot of Audis could have used a better gear ratio at the end. At least with the A8, you're doing like 80 miles an hour, it'd be like at 1,500 RPMs. Now this thing's a 7-speed. It's funny, my Q3 is an 8-speed. You really don't need all these freaking speeds. And the A8, if I'm not mistaken, was just a 4-speed. I don't even think it had a 5-speed back then. I'm talking about a D2, like from 98 to 2003. So it's funny to me, everything's about like, 25-speed cars. And what I feel is these cars are always searching for the right gear to be in. And when you floor them, it's really annoying because it goes down like 4 gears or whatever. It really doesn't know what to do, So that's the other thing. I thought this BMW was trying to make a move on me on the left there. No, excuse me, on the right. But the e-tron for me, and you know what? I really got to get another e-tron, because driving that thing is just like old school Cadillac. You're just like floating. You don't feel anything. Of course, there's no gears. There's no acceleration. What I don't like about the Q3 is it's very aggressive. The tranny's aggressive. Why? I don't know, because, in theory, Tiptronic should learn the way I drive. I don't really drive it aggressively. And I find myself shifting it to a lower gear so it won't downshift so much. And it really does hold the gears. If you wanted something that kind of drives aggressively, more like a stick shift, that Q3 is it. I guess, the GTIs drive like that too, possibly. I don't know. But for me, this thing, I like the way this thing shifts a lot better. So when you're in of course, the electric cars, there's no shifting. It's just, one big gear or whatever. But the most annoying thing about an electric car, for the most part, is you come off the gas and the thing comes to like a stop so quickly because of the regen. That stupid Tesla Corolla S that I have is like that. It's very annoying. Feels like the caliper's locked all the time, and it gets a little bit of getting used to. Like, you couldn't roll like this at all. You'd have to have your foot on the pedal at all times. Now, the e-tron is an interesting vehicle because it doesn't do that. In order to really get the regen to come on, you have to pull back once, and it gives you a little bit, and then pull back twice for the fullest regen, and it's still nothing compared to like a Tesla or a normal electric car. So with the e-tron, you could accelerate, get off the pedal, and then just coast, and it literally will coast the whole way. If there's like a hill or something, that's it. You're just going. And that's what's amazing about that car. If you want to regenerate somewhat, and you'll actually pick up mileage, unlike the Tesla, I've never gained back any miles. So you'd be going along, you see this says 485, and you could drive, let's say 10 miles. You may even gain back more than the 10. You'll be at like 500 miles instead of the 495, even more so. So it's pretty interesting. A lot of these Audis, my Q3 too, when it's finally in these lower gear, like it's shifted so much, they will coast a lot too, which I think is good. Now, for the electric, it's kind of stupid because if it was to coast more, it would get more range. And that's what the issue is. You're constantly on the motors with these Teslas. instead of it letting it coast, even on the highway, it's almost like it just drops off the motor somehow or disengages it. You know, it's like a Chevy or a GMC, like a 468 sort of system, at least with the e-tron. Now, even this, it will coast pretty nicely or whatever, you know, on many of these downward grades and stuff like that. But yeah, it sucks having to drive the same thing all the time. I was actually wanting to keep my Q3 for a long time, but it's like, it's hard. It's really hard driving the same thing all the time. I don't know. Some people, they could get a car and they'll just live with it forever. That's it. That's their purchase. I mean, more power to you. I guess you're not a car person or whatever. Or maybe you just love the car or whatever. I used to be like that too. You know, certain Audis, you know, I never use them. I never drive them, whatever. I'm kind of to a point now where I do not get emotionally attached, and that's the big thing too. And it's just like, hey, whatever, let me try to get as many cars as I can to try them out and then move on. It's like, you know, your bucket list. What is your bucket list? That's the real question. What cars do you want to buy? And you know what? For me, they're not even fancy cars. Most of the cars I want, they're kind of nonsense to most people. So it would be nice too if nerds would actually write in the effing comments something, you know, just, is anybody watching these effing videos? Does anybody watch this friggin' long? Let me know. I'd like to know.